Hi, welcome to our first show of Flip Your Switch. I have a very exciting guest on our first show, Spider Jones, the man with the mouth, Mr. Personality himself, sitting in the chair right here in the studio in Alexander Park. He's going to tell you about Spider Jones, his book, his Believe to Achieve organization, and what he's doing for kids in the Toronto area and his future. Spider, how you doing?
I'm doing good, champ. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, nice to see you, man. It's been a while.
It has been, but you're doing some great things now, too. I'm very proud to call you friend.
Yeah, so you have a history. We all have histories. Most of the people we know have histories. You told me that you used to hang with my uncles when I was younger anyways. They had histories.
They certainly
did. Tell me a
did.
little about the history of Spider.
Well,
when you started your book as you were dirt poor, that you didn't have any hopes and goals because they were crushed, and you overcame all that. Let's go back to when your sister's here in the audience. Let's go back to when you were young and you had your family, you're living with your mother and your father, and you was dirt poor. Because I know what dirt poor is. I can walk down the street, step on a dime, give you 9 cents change. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, and sometimes I tell people, they say, well, which Windsor? Well, there's no, there may be a little poverty, but there's not violence or gang, but which is not true. Windsor's a border town. It's like it's next to Detroit, and Detroit had a huge influence on us. Matter of fact, I spent a lot of time in Detroit. But we grew up in a house with 9 kids and a mother and a father, and it was a 2-bedroom. So like my mother and father, during all the years we lived I lived at home, never had their own bed. They slept on a pull-out sofa. Now there was 5 of us, 4 or 5 of us slept on one bed, 4 or 5 on another bed in the other room. If it wasn't my brothers and sisters, it was my mother adopted one of our cousins who was very young. His mother died when he was young. He lived with us, and crazy thing, I mean, you're going back. Try sleeping in a bed with 4 or 5 kids when 4 of them are bedwetters.
Yeah, I know it, because that's what's happened to us. I'd be in bed with my brothers, and it's who's not going to get the wet spot tonight is what it was all about.
That mattress in our house became like a war zone. Everybody fighting for a dry spot.
That's right.
And I used to tell people what bothered me was, hell, we invented the first water bed and never got a nickel. But so my father worked as a postman and a minister in a pasture. He's a good man. I came from a good family. I had a father and a mother, a good mother and father, but we were poor, and I hated that kind of life. We had to deal with poverty, discrimination, racism, police brutality, just the whole works. And the Jones family at that time, we were probably the poorest and the lowest of the low. So we always, people always come down on us.
I mentioned you in my book. I mentioned you a couple of times in my book, but I mentioned your brother O.J. more, because O.J. used to hang with us. O.J. also went to the penitentiary, and I did major time with your brother O.J. in the penitentiary. You were into some stuff when you were younger. How did you avoid the penitentiary, and what stuff were you into?
Well, I started breaking into cars and then into homes when I was 11, 12 years old, because I had a cousin of mine who was always sharp and clean. And I said, man, where you get all this money? You're always dressed in these sharp clothes. And he said, you know what, man, I'm a hustler. You got to hustle. I don't get this for nothing. I said, what's a hustle? He said, I'm gonna show you what a hustle is. And first thing we did was he taught me how to break into cars, and then we break into homes. And back then they had the half windows, basement windows. So I'd go in through them and go into the homes, and then we'd do that. And then we graduated from that to buildings. You were the bank robberies and doing all the things you did.
No, but we did the same thing you did, because this is the garment district of Canada.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I should.
And there's windows that are open, and you crawl through them.
I should have thought about that. No, you're right here.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I used to call it maintenance work. And I remember when I first met my wife, I was still involved a bit, not like I used to be, but she said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm in the maintenance business. She said, what is that? I said, well, we clean out large estates and warehouses. So that's what
when they're not open.
Yeah.
So that's you talked about Detroit in your book. On page 49, you talked about having a pistol and the Detroit riot started. Now, that's a major event in world history, the Detroit riot. And you were there, right there, hands-on, looking at it. and you were gangbanging back then. So tell me how it felt to be in Detroit at the time as a teenager, and what did you go through doing that?
You know, it's a funny thing because we were all up, just coming out of the White Castle when we saw these police cars speeding down the city and being pursued by fire engines, and you know, it was helicopters, and we look up in south, you see just smoke in the air. It was like something was going on. We didn't know at the time that there was a riot down on 12th Street, because we used to hang around 12th Street all the time. That was the black shopping section.
12th and Woodworth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We no 12th and Buchanan,
Okay.
12th and Claremont. But we used to buy. We bought our shoes, our suits there. You know, that's where we hung out. That's where everybody hung out. Even the Temptations. There used to be places down there like Chappie's Lounge where they'd go and hang out. And of course, that particular night, I know what happened. What bothers me about that too, Richard, is when they showed the movie, they showed that riot, but they didn't show the root causes of all the discrimination, the police brutality that went on for years. That was the second riot there. The first was in '43. But this riot was the worst in history, and it was something else because we couldn't get across the border. I wanted to come back to Toronto. I wanted to get to Windsor, spend a couple of days with my mom, but they closed off the borders. So I went out to my sister's place, Rose's place, and I stayed there for about 7 or 8 days until things cooled off.
So that had such an impact that here in Toronto, we were thinking, how do we help? Do we break into some gun stores and get some guns and get those guns to Detroit to help the brothers in Detroit because the revolution has happened?
Well, they had guns
down.
though. You know, guns were so easy to get in Detroit back then. I mean, I remember when I used to go to Detroit, and my brother-in-law would have two or three guns, 32 calibers, and he'd have in a little holster you clipped on. I always had one on, and thank God I never used it, but it was there, and I think if you're pushed, you'll use it, but that was the way. Ricky, I always have a saying, when you live in the jungle, you better have claws and you better have
That's
teeth.
right, yeah.
You either become the predator or the prey, and
right, yeah.
you know, you and me, we didn't like being the prey. I mean, the prey. We were the you
Well,
know.
I used to mug people here. Here it's a robbery. In the United States, it's a misdemeanor offense, a mugging. And I went to Detroit to visit some guys there, and I had my pistol on me. I said, I'm going to go out and make some money. And they said, you can't be doing that around here. You're not in Toronto. But I still shot downtown and made a few bucks. And you mentioned that in your book, shooting around downtown, doing that. Saw a tank come around the corner, took your pistol, threw it into the Detroit River, and then came to Toronto. Tell us about that trip to Toronto. And why did you put all that behind you, man? Because you were in it. And it's like a drug, that gangsterism.
Yeah.
And how did you get away from that?
It wasn't easy. First of all, first time I came to Toronto, I came up here with George Chevello in 1963. I met him at the Motor City Gym. See, I knew Teddy, who was your trainer, Teddy McWhorter from Alabama. He was your trainer, and he became a trainer. He was George Chevello's trainer, Clyde Gray's trainer. I knew him in Detroit because that's where I met George
Because
Chevello.
he's training Buster Mathis then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And George was working out in Detroit, and George and I became fast friends. And so I came to Toronto with George, and I got a little lonesome. And I came back to Detroit and then back to Toronto and got in trouble at Toronto, got busted, and ended up going to Millbrook for 2 years and spent some quality time up there with, of course, your uncles and Joe Patterson and Jerry Patterson and all them. And then I got back out, and like I had no place to live. And so Sully said, look, it was February and it was really cold. And so I've been living in an abandoned bread truck on Eastern Avenue for a couple of nights, but all I had on was the clothes the Salvation Army gave me. When I was in the Brook, the only people that visited me was the Salvation Army. And Brigadier Hickman got me some clothes, and I had this Columba-looking long coat on, man. And I got into Toronto with about $5 in my pocket. And after a couple nights of hanging around this, I didn't want to get back into the hustle.
So there's a message I hear here. If you want to leave the gangster life, you got to leave it totally, even if you suffer down the road, because to stay in it, you might suffer even more.
Well, that's true. I mean, you know, a lot of my family were gangsters.
That's right.
And the fact is that the last time I served time in Millbrook, I got pretty lucky. There was a white guard from South Africa who said to me, "You shouldn't be in here. This isn't you." I know what he meant, and he said, "You're a nice guy." I always did good time in the joint, never had a problem. And he got me onto the work detail the last 6 months.
And I'd have to admit that Millbrook at that time was one of the most racist institutions in Canada, as I knew, and it was a tough institution because it was a maximum security institution for the provincials. So lots of button heads there.
But this is why this guard, this screw as we called him, had left South Africa. He didn't like the way people of color were being treated. And so he just sort of, the guy was probably in his early 40s, but I learned a lot then. I learned that just because you're from South Africa and you're white doesn't mean you're a racist.
So there's some guy that showed you some respect. That's what it's about. He didn't show you love because he's a freaking guard. He showed you some respect. And that respect resonated with you and helped you flip your switch and change your life around. So now you're at Sully's gym and you meet the fabulous Muhammad Ali. Talk about that.
Man, that was something else. I remember coming up the street that morning I got finished doing some working out at Hyde Park, and then I dropped by a restaurant and did some shopping. They had a room downstairs where they would have a lock on the door, and inside they stored all their peaches and pears and all these things, they're canned. And I went there and got some of them out of there. I was still hustling back then, and I was walking up with my boxing bag full of these items I had stolen, and I'm going up the street, and on each side of the street were these cars, license plates, Illinois, Michigan, Quebec, Ohio, and it was jammed. Ossington right up from Queen to King, both sides of the street. And I get to the gym where I'm living at the time, at Sully's Gym, 109 Ossington, and their people are all milling around outside. They want to see Muhammad Ali. He's inside, and so I walk up into the gym and the place is jammed up. They had remember the big cameras back then? They were lined all across, and there was a dividing line in which you couldn't cross unless you were a member of the boxing club and I went across that line, and I began to talk with Angelo Dundee, who trained the great Sugar Ray and Willie Pastrano and Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was in Foreman's Corner when he won the title again at 45. So I started telling him about himself, and he was flattered. I said, "You think I could beat the champ?" He said, "Oh, yeah." So about 10 minutes later, the door opens. They've been interviewing him in the locker room. Out walks Howard Cowsell. Behind him, Big Jim Brown, Joe Louis, and then Muhammad Ali. And the gym has about 700 people in it. And the chant starts, "Ali, Ali." And I look at him, he's walking out, and I'm looking at him. And I'm looking at this guy, not a mark on it, blemish on it. Here's the heavyweight champion of the world. He fought Liston, and at that time he fought Floyd Patterson and Zora Foley and Eddie Mach and all those guys. Not a mark on him. He was so pretty, I didn't know whether to shake his hand or kiss him. I mean, that guy was
sparred with him.
So that's what happened.
How did it feel to punch the greatest in the mouth?
I didn't get a chance. I tell you what happened, man. He said, I heard the second day there, he was sparring with Travis Snugden first.
Yeah, I know Travis.
And so then I hear, hey kid, Angelo Dundee calls everybody kid. So I'm looking around and say, "Spider, the champ wants to work with you." First thing went through my mind, I'll tell you, Rich, I don't want no part of going there. There's 700 people, paid people coming to see him every day. The press from all the world is there. And he's warned me the day before, I should whip you in front of everybody. The whole world goes to see me whip this guy named Spider Joe. He go Golden Glove champion. He's just joking around. A friend of George Chavalis, and we were. He said, "You up here spying on me, ain't you?" He was putting it to me. But he was having a ball. So I climb in the ring with him. I don't want to. You understand? I don't want to. It's like I wouldn't want to spar with you. You were heavyweight. I'm a light heavyweight. I get never with a guy like you. I can't win. So anyway, we touched gloves, and he says to me, "Just push me in the ropes and work on me." So I'm on the rope. Boom, boom, boom. Harder, harder. He said, boom, boom. Then once we stepped out, he suddenly goes. He throws one shot out. It touches my nose, just to show me he never hurt me once. And Angelo told me after, he said, "You're no danger with Ali. He's probably never won a sparring session. That's just not his style." But it's something you can brag about. But when he left, I went with him for a little while. I ended up going to Philadelphia and Chicago with him, and then I came back. And lived in Windsor and went back to Detroit and got caught in the riots. But after that, that's when my switch really flipped. I just said, man, I don't want to live like this. All this violence, all this ignorance, all this anger, all this, it was just terrible.
But that existed for around Muhammad Ali. He brought it into the ring with him. It was part of the life at the time, especially the life of a fighter. Especially the life of a fighter is so well known in him. How do you get away from that violence? Ali was a peaceful guy, wasn't he?
He was peaceful. Angelo Dundee once told me Muhammad Ali might be a black Muslim and he loved black people, but Muhammad Ali wasn't capable of being a racist against anyone. He didn't dislike people because of their color. And anybody that thought that, here's a man that was above all that. He grew up in the South. He grew up in that racism, but you know what? He rose above it, Richard, as you and I have.
Okay, you're sleeping in the gym, you're struggling, you hit Millbrook, South African guard shows you some respect, changes your view of things. You hit the street, you decide, I'm not going to do any crime anymore. You flip in your switch, you're on that road. Let's talk about that road, because there's a message to these kids. They all think once they flip the switch, they hit the road, it's gravy after that. That the distance between flipping your switch and what you call success is just around the corner. It's a long damn street to try to navigate down. What would you have to say about that?
It was tough at first because these dudes that I hung with had my back all my life. I had their back, and you know when you run with them and they get into trouble constantly fighting or doing something, you got to have your back. You feel obligated because that was your guy. You know what I'm talking about. So I had to get away from these guys, and it wasn't easy. It was very, very difficult for me, and even getting a good job. I had no education. I got different jobs. I ended up shining shoes to Felino's out at the Yorkdale Mall. I made pretty good money, but I got to tell people, hey, Sunshine, give me a shoe shine. Guys, you could kick their ass with one arm behind your back, calling you Sunshine, and boy, demeaning jobs. I'm not saying it's demeaning, it's the way I felt about it. You got to make a living. I had all kinds of other jobs, and one of them was as a bouncer. They hired me as a disc jockey at the old Drake Hotel. You remember back in the day, not like it is now. Back then, it was a hangout for the
East End
seedy
toughies,
crime.
Exactly,
It was tough in there. First day in the joint, I'm flipping the music and just getting down, having a good time. Gino is the owner, telling a guy comes rushing up to me because a fight breaks down on the dance floor. He said, "Spider, go break up at the fight." You know, they broken English. I said, "Man, I ain't here to break up fights." He said, "Listen, you know, break up a fight, the police are gonna come. They close the place down. You got no job." That's what he said. I needed that money. So next thing I know, I'm breaking up fights. Now here's the thing here. They had a bouncer. He had pylons for arms. Looked like Tarzan, but he was a magician. Every time a fight broke out, he'd disappear. Now you have to do the fighting. And so I got tired of that. And I come home one night and I got cut here, a straight razor blocking it, and my wife freaked out. Now, see, the thing was me, that was to help flip my switch, was I met a woman who was really in my corner, and I found, hey, you know what? She's worth it. I got to do something because it's not just me anymore, it's her.
Right. You got something to think about. Hey, Spider, let's look at this segment of you at work, this radio thing you do. When did it start? You mentioned your wife. She had something to do with that. You had to have went to school. You had to have learned your stuff.
You know what? I went to school for that. My wife talked me into going to school. I didn't want to go back to school. First of all, listen, the camera there for a second. I want to tell you something. I didn't want to go back to school because, Richard, I failed grade 3 and grade 4. So I thought I was in the street. I had a master's degree in street smarts, but in terms of academics.
The first sentence in your book was your failed dreams. You couldn't realize your dreams because of the oppression that you were suffering. That was your biggest dream. But that's on
your mind. That's on your mind. I tell some young people today, listen, it doesn't matter where you come from, it's where you're going that counts. Too many young people that grow up in the projects, grow up on the hood, don't believe, they talk it, but they can't walk it because they don't believe they're worth their dream. They don't have that self-worth, that self-esteem. You got to know what you want. And my wife helped me in an area. I said, hey, I want to get a radio show. I know more about music than anybody, especially R&B and rhythm and blues, some jazz. And I went
you
back
have a
to
band.
school. I have a 10-piece band. We do a lot of weddings and corporate stuff. But I went back to school, and I'll tell anybody out there, you can go back to school and do it if that's what you really want. But you need an education or a skilled trade to make it. And I was lucky. I surrounded myself after with people that believed in me, and I began to believe in me.
Who are some of the people that you met in radio?
Oh, geez. I've interviewed, Bill Clinton, Mark Wahlberg, Tina Turner, Smokey Robinson, Frankie Valli, 50 Cent, there's so many of them that Gordon Lightfoot.
So you're rubbing shoulders with a litany of stars. Would that have happened had you not went in the radio? Was there any other way you could have done that?
No, I wouldn't have never lived the life I lived if I hadn't finally made that decision and gave my own approval, nobody else's. And I preach, you don't need someone else's approval to pursue a dream, but you do need your own. And the dream had to be realistic. And I knew, as you've said often, I have a gift of gab, and I have a lot of knowledge of music, right from the evolution of bebop into R&B, into rock and roll and jazz and country. And so that's my passion, music and sports and politics. I love standing up for to injustice and working with young people to try to
So
keep
you mentioned
them.
young people, so we're going to segue into that. So I have a memory. I don't know if you'll share that memory, but you were at Tony Unitas's boxing club, Newsboys Boxing Club. I was training at Queen City with Sully, with Travis, Nicky Furlano, Eddie Mello, and that crew. And we came over there for a fight. And you were so gung-ho of supporting your fighters that you actually got in a fight with Travis in the ring at the amateur show. Can you remember that?
I'll never forget it. You know, Travis and I go back a good history. We became good friends. We had a run in that night. I think Chris Amos, who became Donovan Boucher's trainer, and of course a couple other good fighters, Troy Amos Ross. He became his trainer. I was training him, and he fought a kid named Bobby Bath, who was a good friend of mine too. And Bobby beat him by a split decision. It was very close. I said, "Hey, Travis, we got robbed." And Travis said, "Oh, we got into it." And of course, Eddie Mello and Nicky Furlano and everybody else broke it up.
Yeah, I was there. I was there in the ring. So
Wow.
what I was thinking at the time, because I grabbed some big heavyweight guy that was from your side, and I just said, "You don't want none of this." And I sort of like chilled him
And
out.
did he?
Yeah,
he didn't want none?
He didn't, because I would have ate him up. So anyways,
I like that.
your fight was almost finished then when we were pushing people into the corners and that.
Yeah,
but what I thought to myself is, here's a guy that's so behind his kids, Travis so behind his kids, that you guys butted heads for your kids. And I said to myself, these guys really must like these kids to risk all this for them.
It was crazy because, you know, a couple of days later, Bertie Maniaco, our friend from
Lansdale,
summoned us to the gym. "Hell's wrong with you guys? You guys supposed to be friends." And you listen, let's just say, when Bertie talked, you listened.
Bertie was the top loan shark of Toronto for a number of years. He was connected.
Yes, he was well connected. And Travis and I shook hands. A few months later, I get a call from Travis. "I got some work for you." We started going on a circuit, and I became an MC for wrestling matches for him. Travis is quite the hustler, but we became friends again, and that was just like the time I stepped on your shoe many years ago.
You mentioned that, and I'd like to. You brought that up because I'm with OJ and we're in the bar. You stepped. I don't know you from Adam, but you
didn't know I was his brother.
You had that walk, and I'm like, who the hell
I
is this guy?
like to call it swagger.
And then you stepped on my toe, so I said, "Man, this guy stepped on my toe. He didn't say anything. Give me a gun." So my brother gives me a 38, and you're coming back, and OJ catches the play. He says, "What's going on?" So I'm gonna blast a cap in this guy, man. He stepped on my shoe. Don't forget, I'm only 16 years old. I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and OJ said, "Yeah, this is Ricky's a good friend of mine. You stepped on his shoe," and you went, "Damn, man, feet that big, I'm surprised everybody ain't been stepping on him. Everybody's laughing.
Well, you come to my place many times, you and OJ and them. I knew the whole family, your uncles and your brothers, yeah.
So what you've done is you took a situation that could have been serious, because the kids nowadays, 14, 15, 16, they step on each other's shoes, spill a drink, guns are coming out.
It's over, yeah.
So you took that and dissipated the tension in the room by being funny. And don't get me wrong, you were still a tough guy in my eyes. It wasn't like I was saying this guy's a punk or nothing. This guy's a tough friggin' guy, and yet he's chilling it by being funny and everybody's laughing. So I gotta love that. I gotta love how that played out.
But you know what, Richard? Because first of all, I might have been, I got it in my scraps, but I wasn't a bully, and you weren't a bully. You see, that's the difference. And I'm not buttering you up. I know you. You had a certain code. And that's why we always respected one another. It's the code, but a lot of that's gone down the drain today.
You could be tough without being a bully.
Yeah, but a lot of that's went down the drain today. But I teach my kids diffuse situations. That's part of it. The kids at my center.
Okay, there's something I want to talk about. Let's look at this clip of you. I got a picture of you at your center, surrounded by a bunch of kids, and man, you look happy. And that's what I like to talk about, the spider's web.
About 10 years ago, I remember lighting a crowd up just with, I do a lot of motivational speaking and all over Canada and in the United States. I even been down as far as the Caribbean. But I thought, you build a fire, but you got to nurture it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the fire go out in the middle of the night and everything gets cold again. So I decided I need to center. These kids need to be nurtured. I want to reach them before the prison system does.
So let me stop you there. I'm going to say this to you. So I met you when I was 16, a little contentious there in Darcy's after hour club filled with pimps and players and all that. But I think that had I met you 2 or 3 months earlier, a year earlier, at the time you sparred with Muhammad Ali, and you could have then took me then, this young future gangbanger, and redirected me, flipped my switch in another direction. I don't think anyone else could have, with the exception, and I mentioned it a few times, Joe Patterson, because I looked up to black gangsters. And if a black gangster would have told me, listen, man, I know where you're going. It's a bad road to go down. I'm down it now, and I wish I wasn't. I probably would have listened to that. So that message that you give to kids, coming from the ground, man, because you was a tough dude back in the day, has to mean something to them, because it meant something to me. So yeah, talk about this spider's web. Talk about those kids you're helping, because you're saving lives, man.
We have about 80 kids in there. Our program begins at 3:30 and goes to 9 o'clock every night. And in the summer, we have a summer camp, and we have about 90 kids. And they start from 7 years old up to 18. Now in the summer camp, a lot of the older kids get a paycheck every 2 weeks because they've earned it. But we have a homework club, we have a music club, we have a computer room, we have a kitchen full of food. First of all, they do their homework, and we feed them. And we've had kids in there, students in there, Richard, that come in there and they are special ed. We've only got 3 or 4 left out of about 50. And you know why? Because we take the time. And so you take the time to deal with these kids and show them not just love, but direction, discipline, and self-worth. You're worth more than what I went through or what you went through. You're worth more than going to prison. In prison, what they do is they put you to bed every night. They wake you up every morning. They tell you what to eat, drink, watch, wear. They check your mail out.
I told someone that today, they asked me what prison was really about. Being strip searched by another man every single day of your existence. If you're in a maximum security, it's every day. If you're in a minimum, it might be once every 2 or 3 weeks. Get your clothes off, turn around, hands up, rub your hair, tongue out, bend over, spread them, next. That's prison to me.
And no matter if you're the Hulk, because you were one of the biggest, toughest guys in there. There's a system you go through, and it's very humiliating. It's undignified. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life.
So somebody that steps on somebody's shoe will say, and the kid's a hothead, so he blasts the cap to get his propers, his respect. The next day he's in prison. What kind of respect do you think he has?
Many cases, you're not getting, first off, not only get respect, you ain't got no gun now. And you got dudes in there that just love young men. I'll be honest with you. I've said to kids that are hard-headed, I've told them, I said, you know what, man, You go to prison, you're going to be somebody's Mrs. Bitch. That's all you're going to be. They don't want to hear it, but it's not just that. Once you go to prison, prison is a place of higher learning. It's not a place, it's a higher learning criminal activities, but sooner or later you're going to get nailed and you're going to go to prison. You're wasting your time. It's a waste of time. I wish I had those years back. I don't lose sleep over it. But the thing is, I find that people such as you and I that have these backgrounds can reach these kids a lot more than these psychologists and all these politicians. Lip service has gone too far. Putting more police on the streets isn't going to stop the gun violence.
So exactly, I believe that 100%. I spent 34 years in prison. We have 660,000 days in an average 72-year lifespan, and I wasted literally 2/3 of mine in the slammer, like you said, going nowhere, doing nothing. And all it would have took, and I think all this all the time, all it would have took is when I was 13, 14, 15, is somebody that was thinking. They didn't have to be a genius, just thinking enough to say, come here, let me talk to you and pull your coat. I think it would have made a difference from someone like us, because the man tried to talk to me. Bert Novus, I mentioned in my book, lots of times tried to correct me. Judges tried to correct me. My father, a community leader, tried to correct, and none of it worked. Because I wanted to be a gangster, so it would have had to take a gangster to dissuade me from being a gangster.
You know what? I don't think it's been more aptly put than that. And you know what else? I tell people all the time, older guys, these kids are looking up to you. My brother OJ became a gangster. He worshiped me, idolized the ground I walked on, yet I never tried to talk to him like I should have. I should have talked to him back then. Maybe I would have changed. Maybe I should have tried to reach you back then. You know, but I sort of was.
Well, let's forget about yesterday, because you're doing it good now.
But I was worshiping. Joe Patterson was my cousin and my idol. I just worshiped those guys.
And Joe Patterson, I mentioned in our book, he was the top muscle in the black community here. What happened to him? How did his life end?
The guy that ended was probably 140 pounds. Yeah. But yeah, you're right.
Joe was shot to death. That's the point we're getting at. Yeah. So.
But I just try to work with these kids. I find that I feel blessed and gratified that I've got an opportunity to help, not just change lives, but to help guide young people through the storms.
So you've been doing it for a long time. You've been on the front lines for a long time. Now, Spider has something coming up in a few weeks from now, the fight of the suits. I went there last year. It was a great event. Let's talk about your tomorrow. What are you going to do tomorrow? What's going to happen with Spider tomorrow? You got your band. You're still helping kids. You have this thing happening with the suits. You're still on radio. Man, you're a busy guy.
I like I say, I'm blessed. Well, they're working on a movie script. We've had a couple offers. It's called A Dream Never Dies, about a young man that from the time he was 10 years old wanted to be in radio, and it took me 30 years to get there. The whole story, which I share with young people, is part of my thing. When you know what you want, then you got to find a game plan and set goals and go and ask people to know what they're doing to help you along the way, because we're out here.
Yep, for sure.
So that's what I'm doing, and I'm doing my radio show with Zoomer, and I just finished another book called The Predator Within. So you know, I'm trying to keep up with you. You got that book. Your book is out of this world. It's just, I was reading it and I got halfway through it and my wife took it and read it. And
you got to wait for her to go to sleep and sneak up there and get it.
But I finally got it back. Well, she finished with it. I got it back, and now I'm
so this suit thing's coming up in 2-3 weeks from now. Explain that. What's that about?
That's June the 6th. I mean,
September
the 6th. It's called the Battle of the Suits. And we do it once a year to raise money for the Spiders Web Youth Empowerment Center.
Okay, now you said that, Spider. How many governments are helping you with your endeavors here? Your community center, the stuff you do to help kids, because you are helping a lot of kids.
Well, nobody from the government is
you got no government helping you.
Not one bit.
So how does Spider make this all work?
Bay Street. I go to Bay Street. I have a lot of contacts. Over the years, through radio, I've developed a tremendous amount of contacts. So I use them, and we have fundraisers and things like that. I had one guy deliver a check to me for well over $250,000 to renovate my entire center. I have Greenman Property Management, who are just they're saints. The contribution they've made to me. And that's how I do it.
Are these people involved in this fight that's coming up? Are they the power behind the fight?
No, they're not the power, but they do support it by buying a couple tables.
Yeah.
They usually buy a couple tables, and that it always helps out. But the Battle of Suits, Bay Street comes out, and this one, Gordon Lightfoot's going to be there. We're presented him with a portrait, a painted portrait of himself. So it's going to be quite an affair. And we'll have one of our kids singing the national anthem, and
yeah, great, man.
It's really good
So
stuff.
the reason I'm doing this show is to send the message to kids because they think they know everything. They don't know jack shit, and we know that from a gangster's point of view. Is there anything you want to see in them up and coming young gangsters who are really missing the ball in life? Because I say this: there's $78 billion generally in organized crime in Canada every year. And that's what we chase, our 1%er. We call us 1% because we're the stupid 1% of the population. The other 99% of the square johns, as we call them, they chase $7 trillion of Canadian money. How stupid are we, the 1%, going after just a few billion when there's trillions out there if you're legitimate? There's trillions out there. So what would you like to say to kids to pull them into legitimacy so they stop this gangbanging bullshit that they're hooked into and they go down a better road than her? Because you went down a road, and you know what I'm talking about. I went down a road, and those roads weren't nice, and I don't advocate them for anyone. I know successful criminals, and they're still not happy people. They got to watch over their shoulder at all times. They don't know what's going to happen to them. What would you say to that?
You know what? I would say that if you're pursuing a criminal career, I'll tell you straight up. Am I looking in here? Bring that camera in. I want to tell them. You listen to me. I'm going to tell you now. You listen to me. There's no future in it. You're either going to go to jail or an early grave. It's as simple as that. Sooner or later, there's no life, there's no future for your wife, your children, your loved ones. You hurt a lot of people. You know what to do. And I'll tell any kid that's out there, you know what it is to be cool, Richard? Staying in school, getting an education, getting a skilled trade. I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of gangsters. My friend Richard knows. We know them all. We've been around them, some of the most famous. And they'll tell you just what I'm telling you. The honest ones will tell you, don't go down this road, man. There ain't no happy ending. There ain't no happy ending. If you don't know what you're doing, ask somebody. Look me up, SpiderJones.com. I'll talk to you. I'll help you if I can.
Okay, this spider's web thing and all the things you're doing, what's your vision of tomorrow? What would you really like to achieve? You have achieved a lot, without a doubt. You came from the streets. You came dirt poor. You came with a lot of adversity attached to you. You overcome all these hurdles that most people would have succumbed to: drugs, suicide, prison. That didn't happen to you. Now you have this opportunity to do something for tomorrow, not only for the people around you, but for yourself. What do you really want to do?
Well, one of the things I'd like to see in the future, and I've been negotiating with some of the well-heeled people in Toronto, and is to have a Spider's Web Youth Center, 5 or 6 of them across the city, where young people can come in for nothing. I'm not. They want to play sports, that's fine. Basketball, hockey, boxing, that stuff's all great, but I want to get into their minds and develop their minds. I think young people need to be engaged, and they need to be able to go somewhere where they have a safe environment, where they have a nurturing environment, where there are mentors and people to help them with
This
connections.
is important. What age would you start doing that then?
I believe the younger you get them, the better. I'd say about 7 years old. You know, Richard, I've been to so many prisons across North America as a speaker. And I can tell you something. I have hardened criminals are very difficult to reach. But I got to say this, and even saying that, I've never once been mistreated. Even white supremacists, when I go to prisons, they always treat me with respect. It's a funny thing about that. More, you know,
because you ain't bullshitting anybody.
No. I'm straight up. But the point is,
in prison, what you get to determine quickly is someone that's full of shit.
You ain't lying. I've been to prisons like Mill Haven where they got you in a camera and you're not in the room. You're only in a room with 5 or 6 guys. The rest of it's going, into the.
Well, Mill Haven's a supermax, so yeah.
Yeah. But I think that I want to have Spider's Web Youth Centers, and I'm negotiating, as I said, with Greenman Property Management and some other people. And I must say this: the only politician that I've seen that has really come to help me really helped me and be at all my events is Mayor John Tory. He's always been there to help me. And
Well, it's good to have friends in high places.
Absolutely, but it's not something that happened easily. Richard, for you and I, when I used to go into Bay Street back in the day, there was very few people of color. And when I opened I'm the first black man in this nation to go coast to coast. And I remember how
on your radio show.
Yes, but I remember how alienated I felt back then because there was nobody in the business. I'd cover press conferences and hockey conferences. The only thing blacker than me was a puck. I mean, it was crazy, and you felt alienated for a long time. But I got through that, and I look around now, and I help mentor other people.
You talk about crushed dreams and crushed visions. When we were kids in this neighborhood, there were some really good Nova Scotian hockey players coming from Windsor, Nova Scotia, the birthplace of hockey in North America, and yet they couldn't go past grade 9, grade 10 in hockey because they couldn't go to those white elite hockey schools to get them up in there.
That's very
true.
So
that's one hurdle that we had to overcome. That hurdle's not there now. So the hurdles you talk about that were there when we were younger, those racist hurdles, do they still exist now in your mind? What's going on? Are the hurdles the same for the kids that are just like us?
Well, some of them are still there, but no, we've opened doors for a lot. Just as Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, they have opened, Frederick Douglass, the list goes on. They sacrificed for us. So the doors are open, but they're still not wide open yet. In Toronto, especially in Canada, the radio business and the whole TV, it's basically the whole media is white bread. It still is. And anybody to deny that is a fool. I've been accused of playing the race card because I say that, and I say no.
So can the next Spider Jones make it?
Yes, he can if he's determined. You don't listen. What I thought when I came in was, I'm not letting these frat boys get in my way. I got a dream. Look, I grew up in the streets. I fought tough guys. Everything I had, I struggled for. I'm going to let some, excuse my expression, but punk-ass frat boy, if his racist views, narrow mind, stop me from achieving my dream. It's how bad you want it,
right.
Richard. You have to have a passion for it.
You have to believe to achieve.
Yes, that's the name of our organization. You got to believe to achieve. If you believe you can achieve, and how do you achieve? Because you believe, and it starts with goals, maybe a small goal. Like this building we're sitting in, it started with a foundation, one brick at a time. And then you've got this beautiful pottery place here now, a school for
Took the
youth.
city 4 years to fix my leaky room, but that's okay. We're still rolling.
You are rolling, absolutely. And I got to tell you, you're doing great things. I've always respected you. We send back little inspirational notes to each other once in a while. But I'm sorry, but Richard, you know, and I know if you got a passion.
So if you could have helped me, and I could help someone else, together we could help a lot of people.
I sent you a message the other day. I said
straight right analogy.
Yeah, I said, Ricky, you're the left hook, I'm the straight right. Together we can make the change.
Yeah, because you're a generation older than me. I hung with your younger brother.
We don't tell everybody. Don't tell everybody. I'm old man.
You're in your 60s.
70s, actually. You're being kind now. 76 years old, but I still got a little, pep in my step and talk in my walk,
Okay, so you've done this great thing. You've pulled together business people from Bay Street. You're up in the Jane and Finch area, helping disenfranchised kids, the kids that don't have a lot of opportunity, giving them more opportunity. You connect with the police. You connect with the gangbangers. You're a person that's well-known. Spider's well-known across the city. I mentioned your name all over. Everybody knows who they're talking about. You're a personality now. Similar in a sense to the personalities you just mentioned. Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X. You're that guy now, Spider, whether you like to see yourself as that now. So you have an impact on the youth of tomorrow. Is there anything else, the last thing you want to say to that youth of tomorrow? Because you are somebody.
You know what? Listen. If a boy that failed grade 3 and grade 4, pissed the bed till he's 14, had nightmares all his life, went to prison, spent 8-9 years in prison. If I can become successful and go after my dream, then anybody out there can. You just got to believe you can achieve. You got to see it to be it. And I tell them, envision it. Envision it. I remember when I went back to school, I always continued envisioning myself sitting in that radio studio, playing them jams. And you know, I had to believe it. Then I had to be willing. My father used to say, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. You know, you got to be willing to sacrifice. How many out there are actually willing to sacrifice to bring that dream into reality? I don't give a hell if you've been in jail. It doesn't matter. Don't tell me you can't be successful because you've been to prison. Or don't tell me you can't be successful because you come from poverty. Don't give me that excuse that Whitey's doing all this and that to you. I'm tired of hearing that. Get your ass up and find out what you want to do, and then set goals and pursue that dream.
That's it.
But don't being a gangbanger. There's no future in it. Your life is that worth so much that you wanna
even at the top of gang banging, because you get to the top. Well, I was with a crew of guys that took over a country. We're at the top of the gang. All of us got arrested. Pablo Escobar, dead. Everybody at the top of the gang either is dead or in prison. I know some successful criminals. Sold weed, maybe sold a little blow, bought a business, made that business work for them. Even those guys aren't happy in how they have acquired their wealth. And I look at those guys like lotto winners because they avoided all the arrests, all the gangbang problems that you have. And in our world here, those lotto winners are as rare as winning a lotto. So why would you even chance that?
And I say to you, look at Richard Atkinson. Here's a guy that 5 judges said he could have been a Fortune 500 lawyer. He could have been anything. And you're smarter than most. You really are. I've known you since you were young. Your intellect is just perhaps you're as smart as anybody. And you got nailed. You got caught. There's a perfect example. The most you think you're smart. You're not.
That's right. Yeah.
Smart people pursue other careers, not a career in.
And that's what I say.
Crime.
If you're a criminal and you take a hit, you go to jail, you lose anything. If you go into legitimacy, you take a hit, you fall down, dust yourself off, and you go back at it.
I like to use boxing as a metaphor. All the great champions got knocked down except Chevalo, but you know, we're talking about world champions: Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Jake LaMotta. They all got knocked down. They got back up. That's the difference. They got back up and into the fight. And life is boxing's a metaphor for life. You get up and back into the fight.
Sully got knocked down. He lost 3 sons and a wife.
Yes.
He got knocked down and he still got back up.
Got back up. Yep, that's true. That is true. But I mean, you know, I use boxing as a metaphor for life for me because the greats got knocked down, but they had the courage to get. It don't take courage. It takes courage. People that think that guys carry guns and rob and they don't have courage. That's wrong. They have courage, but it's dumb. They are dumb along with it.
Misdirected.
Yeah. Anyone that suggests that anybody uses a gun as a coward, they don't. I mean, I never bought that because I know some of the baddest dudes I ever met would cut you too thin to fry and just right to die because they come from the streets.
Let's not talk about your cousins.
Yeah, I get you there.
There was lots of them coming up Windsor, coming up here.
Honest to God. But you Scotian guys were badasses too.
Yeah, because we cut and shoot each other. So we sure going to do it to a stranger. So, yeah.
But it's funny, though, when we talk about most of the Scotians and Windsor guys always got along. Yeah. They seem to get along very well.
Well, for us, where are you from, Windsor? Where are you from, Windsor?
Yeah,
Windsor, Nova Scotia, Windsor, Ontario.
But you produced the better fighters out of Nova Scotia than we did.
Yeah, because I don't know why Detroit's across the river.
Yeah.
That's a good school of learning.
We didn't want to go across the river. There was Detroit was Murder City, USA, but I loved it. It was a time when, I mean, you know, there was exciting things about it too. I mean, we used to get to see Smokey Robinson.
Isn't that what attracts gangsters also? There is an exciting thing about it.
Well, you go to 20 grand on a Saturday night, man. It was a truce, but you got the biggest pimps and hustlers and entertainers and political. They'd all go there to catch Marvin Gaye or Etta James or Smokey Robinson.
Or to Windsor to roller skate. I remember I went there and the place was packed with people.
Oh, yeah.
That had money, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Spider, our show's coming to an end. Is one last thing, anything you want to say? Shout out to your family, sisters here.
Yeah, my sister Rose is up here from, she lives north of Detroit, and she was in Phoenix for 3 or 4 years and then came back to Detroit, but she's visiting me for a while. My younger sister, Rosemary, and, you know, I'm glad she come up to see me. And hell, you know what, man? I just want to say to everybody out there, I'm so glad I flicked the switch. I've turned my life around, and I'm 76, man, and I'm still going strong. and speaking and working with young people, and my friend Richard Atkinson here.
And
you
a
know.
devastating still right cross. Still got it. Ain't lost it, so be careful. Okay, Spider, thanks, man. Good to have you on
It's
the
always
show.
my pleasure.
So thanks for watching another show of Flip Your Switch. Stay tuned for our next guest. Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night. See y'all later.